So, Fortnite has updated. I'm a little bit late because I honestly don't care to play this game at all. Skyway's matchmaking has been kicking me in the shins this entire, like, 3 seasons, and I really hope they just remove it or at least return it back to Chapter Two's version because Chapter Two's version was fine. It was a little bit of a challenge and a, headache, but I mean, wasn't as bad as chapter 5 near the end of it, and then chapter 6, season 4, the Homer season, and of course this season. So, yeah, but besides that, irrelevant ramble, sort of, let's actually get on to talking about stuff. I have to restate a few things. There's some new news, some new bugs, just really one, and two new weapons. One that is very, very late for me to talk about, and one that is decently late for me to talk about. And I'm going to talk about that one first because it's an AK. It is the lock-on AR. It is based most notably on the AKM, but it is the AK platform of a rifle, so it doesn't matter certain things because as much as I like personally having the AKM, be fully represented in a video game, it's not going to happen in Fortnite because Fortnite has given it a touch with Chapter 5, and then they gave up completely after that. But at least the weapon models were like somewhat practical. But I guess we're back to slightly artistic liberties with Chapter 7, and that's going to be so fun because now we have weapons that are like old Fortnite and like just getting everything. So chapter 7 is like the everything season to where you have like weapons that look more tactical but in the Fortnite art style, weapons that look realistic, weapons that look halfway realistic in Fortnite art style, and then actual Fortnite weapons. But again, I'm going on a tangent. Let's actually talk about the rifle this time. So it uses the chapter 5 magazine, but they've modified the little mag catch that is for, Stadag mag compatible rifles, most notably the AR platform. And it's not accurately modeled, but it's whatever. Especially not, you know, there for 7.62 AKs, the AK-12 magazine, and I believe just whatever like uses that magazine does have, I believe, that sort of like M4 button release style like mag hatch for certain other ARs to use that magazine, but either way, I just know that 7.62 by 39 magazines I don't think have that. I don't think there's a rifle that would need that, but either way, it is modified to look more like a 7.62 magazine. It's got a more broader curve, albeit I think slightly less obtuse, but I mean it's whatever. And it looks like a 30 round magazine too. The chapter 5 version of course does look like a 35 but not 30 a 30 round magazine, but it's more of a 5.56 one than a 7.62 one. Of course, the Russian caliber. It's got also, I believe, like a little latch, so it's sort of quote unquote easier to manipulate the magazine. But I think it's more so easier to pull out of pouches because I mean the lever paddle is right there. Either way, this is a very interesting AR. It is, festooned with nubbins, as in the words of Jonathan Ferguson, keeper of firearms and artillery in the Royal Army's Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of iconic weapons and firearms from throughout history. So, yeah, either way, let's get on to the nitty gritty here, finally. So, the dust cover has notably a bulging back, like either welded onto it or just it is the dust cover, and it's like that on both sides. The recoil spring assembly slash dust cover, button release, the original position of it is replaced by a Game Boy with tiny little glowing buttons on the side that I don't think glow if you have a weapon wrap on, but the screen, of course, does still glow. And the actual button has been pushed downwards for some reason, and the recoil spring assembly inherently has been when it should be up here. It's now down here, which more resembles the Goat Gun's poor rendition of an AKM, which is called the AK-47 and has parts of an AK-74. Because fuck you and your entire enjoyment of the AKM. Either way, grievances aside with Goat Guns, it is very cool that the recoil spring assembly is still visible, much like it is on the Nemesis AR and I believe the Ranger AR, which is just the heavy AR but better modeled. Either way, now we'll talk about the stock, and it is very interesting because it's got metal reinforcements on the bottom and top. And it has a rivet for some reason through that. It is more angled like the AK-47, but the attachment point is straightened out like the AKM, which is very interesting. And it's also just looks more like a like lever action stock, if you know what I mean. I'm trying to get at, but it's just the cheek rest is very big. The pistol grip is a sort of ergo pistol grip, but wooden for whatever reason. I don't really mind. The trigger looks to be like a water pistol trigger, which is very interesting because the pistol grip has nothing to do with the, trigger assembly. It should just be attached to the receiver, through a hole, of course, and not look like a 1911's, But of course, a water pistol version of the 1911's trigger. The front, however, is a completely different story because the sight and the lock-on system, which you don't use, by the way, you use the lock-on system, but you don't use the sight for whatever reason. I mean, I guess they just had it up to here with making newer versions of a, scoped quote-unquote rifle or anything. And it has more things that we'll get onto, notably when we actually hold it. But the button, as you can see, is ambidextrous for whatever reason, and that's just kind of whack in general. And the texture for it is very whack. It's like the bump mapping has been misplaced for it for some reason. So, yeah, but that's more of a nitpick on the exact model of itself rather than its representation of the AK platform. It's also got a reinforcement. It replaces the entire rear block, rear sight block, by the way. I forgot to mention that. And the reinforcement is like, it seems like it wants to be a front, front bulge front trunnion like the RPK, but it's very much not. And it has reinforcements on the bottom, which inherently makes the receiver look skinnier, and I think it is skinnier than it needs to be. And the front handguard is a lot bigger, seemingly, but it really isn't. It's just the receiver is skinnier. The front handguard and furniture is very interesting too. I'll not dock points because, I mean, you can't see the gas tube or the barrel, but it's Fortnite, we're not asking for hyper realism here. I'm just nitpicking some small things that are very interesting when we could at least get a somewhat close representation, much like Chapter 5 or ballistic weapons, Albeit we have a Chapter 6 weapon in ballistic, but it's besides the point. Either way, the furniture isn't anything bad. It's modified. It's like lipped right here and sort of bottlenecked, I think, on the front. So it's very interesting. It's kind of like trying to be like the inverse of a bump, but just on the complete bottom rather than an indent. So That's interesting. And I believe this sort of like gas block system, not really system, I guess, but like this little cutout for the like top furniture for the gas tube. I believe that's on a specific version of a rifle, either from China or like I think it's a Yugo AK. I don't know. I remember seeing this, and maybe it's on like something that's like resembling the AK platform, but it's a very interesting choice that they pull this out rather than making this based on a normal AK. The 90-degree gas block that it has is very interesting too because I don't think they're angled. They might be, but it looks more angled than it should be. And the connection point, I think the connection point's fine. I think it might have that sort of like little grooved bit. And the sort of scanner, as I figured out, that helps the lock on, of course. I already knew it did, but I didn't know exactly how it did it, but it's a tiny little scanner. It is geniusly attached to the gas block. So that's very cool. And final thing to note, the front sight is attached to the muzzle device. They're just completely one solid object. You know, the muzzle device is inherently like helped and connected to the front sight, but not like this. And it's sort of resembling the 45 degree gas, like no 40, not the 40, the 45 degree muzzle device, but it's pointed straight up rather than pointing from the right to the left because of how the AK's muzzle rise wants to go up to the left, well, up to the right. So it's sort of there to sort of counteract that. And the true final note is that it's on semi-auto, and that's really the most irking thing is that it's on semi-auto and not full auto, and it's missing the third pin, little third rivet, and I think yeah, it's missing a rivet for the trigger mechanism as well. So yeah, I think like this rivet should be further back as well, but that's besides the point. Now let's get on to actually talking about it, and the most heinous thing, besides the fact that it holds 24 for some reason, despite the magazine being more extended, so naturally it should hold 30, but either way, it's burst. I hate it. I understand it's because of the lock-on AR, but they could have just made it a slow-firing full automatic rather than that, but I feel like they had like necessity to make it fast, and the only way to make it fast is by making it burst. However, the optic that you don't use again, it gives you a little heads-up display, which I'll talk about more. It flips up and down in a very cool sci-fi manner, but the thing is most games don't realize that it's sort of weird for a rifle to just know when you're aiming, especially when your character can be, you know, your average Joe, a Fox, Master Chief, or even Jason Voorhees, and John Wick, a dude in a like bulletproof suit that has no technology whatsoever. So there's nothing to link it towards to at least make it make sense. A motion sensor or a sort of weight sensor could be, you know, inherently given to make this make more sense, but you don't rest your cheek on the rifle. You sort of do a weird, like, hold of it. It's not like a normal average hold. And I forgot to mention that the textures for it don't appear when you use the drop-in world model rather than the actual in-hands model. So, yeah. And now, for the final part of this rifle before we get into the first person, is that the little ammo counter on the bottom of the fancy heads-up display just immediately depletes rather than in time with the rounds fired. That's a small nitpick that I have. And this sort of weird thing that happens when you reload is very interesting. And here is the first person rigging for it. You don't aim it, you just look at the buttstock. And it does have a first person animation. It's just, yeah. So sorry for the little cut, but now moving on to the Flex SMG. I believe this is based on either the CZ Scorpion or the other SMG that notably gets mistaken as the CZ Scorpion, but either way, it is heavily modified, a more chunkier receiver that has additional reinforcements and just an overall different look, but keeps roughly the same exact aesthetic. And the most difference is that the ejection port is on the right rather than the top. And the charging handle on the right is different than, of course, the normal one. However, there is a charging handle on the left that is attached to the bolt, but I don't know if that actually reciprocates like the one on the right. The it has like a really big spring for some reason. I don't know if that's how it is on the actual, SMG, because I don't know what the actual one this could be based on, but I'm gonna just guess it's a CZ Scorpion. Like, I think it has a smaller one, and the bolt doesn't look like this. At least I think, because this is from the side view rather than the top, because it's supposed to be a top ejecting gun. The selector might be in a wrong position. I don't really know because I don't really look at it. The stock, surprisingly, is the top folding stock still, and it's got like the actual, design so it can lay and rest on top of the gun. It also still allows you to use the sights. Whether if it actually folds, it'll not get into the way of the front sight. I don't know. It might actually leave enough space, but yeah. But I think it lacks the button that allows you to actually flip it. I think it's just kind of there. It's adjustable, which is cool. It's got little things on the back, which I think are an extra thing, so you can put like whatever extra stock or choice you want, because I don't think this is supposed to be here, like in the actual SMG in real life. Pistol grip is very interesting. I think it looks close-ish. I haven't seen the CZ Scorpion in like a hot minute. And I believe it's not a button release, magazine, but it's here in Fortnite because, of course, it is, and it's using the Chapter 5 magazine inherently, much like the other AK that's there. And it's, I believe, the Monarch one. So, yeah, not really much to talk about with this weapon because I don't know too much about the CZ Scorpion. However, it does have a cool pull animation, and it has some cool features to it, albeit kind of interesting. So that's the fire rate, normally. It holds 36, by the way. I forgot to mention that, and it's kind of whack. But when you aim it in, yeah. The animation is very rough for it, by the way. So the final thing to talk about before I get into the first person is that this sort of gimmick kind of whack. Don't really like it because, again, for this to work, the character would have to touch something, because you can change the fire rate of weapons. The Browning automatic rifle is the most notable rifle that can actually, do this sort of feature. And also, the six shooter does it properly because the six shooter is a revolver and it's single action, and your character fans the hammer when you hip fire and like thumbs it when you aim it. So this is the only gun in Fortnite that does this that just kind of sucks and is, you know, mid. I like gimmick weapons, don't get me wrong, and this is Fortnite, so I'm not going to be like, hey, everything needs to be realistic in the weapon category, but I don't know. Do we really need this? They could have just kept that at a slow fire rate or the fast fire rate, and it would have been completely fine. Because there's like no point in making a dedicated hip-fire SMG. We're all gonna use hip-fire anyways, so just cucking people from aiming is rather ass. Oh wait, I forgot. Yeah, you can't use this. It technically does have a first-person animation because of this. So, yeah, that's it for these weapons. And I will now make another part to restate all of the issues from other things. So, note that I'm still in the first-person mode. And the reason why is because we are, like, almost a second year in from its release. And a Chapter 6 weapon, another Chapter 6 weapon that notably has the actual default variant with a first-person rigging, so they can just copy and paste it here. For some reason, another Chapter 6 weapon that'll be from Season 4. From Season 4 as well. Actually, no, this one's from Season 3. I don't know why, but Season 3 and Season 4 have just been cucked. And also, again, ironically in reverse, the exotic version has the first-person rigging, albeit broken, and this can just work. The Evo Chrome weapons are still broken, by the way. And this, I've never noticed this. This is very interesting. Did they increase the pullout time? That's actually really cool. But yeah, it does has no first-person rigging either, so that's very cool. All these weapons just still busted. And now, for ballistic weapons, I will speedrun and say that the third-person animations for the Sovereign Sniper and the drum gun are still not fixed. The reload animation is still not fixed for the drum, well, the Frenzy Auto, and the animations for the Veiled Precision SMG, the Machine Pistol, the Frenzy Auto also, and the Sovereign Sniper. Basically, most recent guns that, ignoring the Burst AR, because the Burst AR has actually probably been worked on, you know, more than the Sovereign Sniper. I think the Sovereign Sniper was just a last minute like addition that they really wanted to add, but still put some effort into it, of course, because I mean they have to. Ever since the Sovereign Sniper, every single weapon's basically been having the issues of the legs just going stiffy mode. But either way, yeah, this sounds back to being broken, and the Thunderburst SMG has now carried the burden of this effect. And the hand cannon's third-person animations are also still whack because the slide doesn't, actually move when you aim in. And here's how it looks. By the way, this is still a bug. They fixed it once, but it's now, again, a bug, and it's still been a bug. This game just likes to add bugs, and you still can't weapons to counteract this bug, because this happens only in creative, but any map that allows you to turn off the first-person camera, well, you're better off not having it on unless it's automatically on. And if it's automatically on, well, then just never turn it off, because if you use any weapon with an optic, this is what you'll encounter. But yeah, this is... I don't know, it was good originally, but now it's just kind of whack. It's like they use the first-person animation and hastily put it onto the third-person, and it just does this. And again, they care about the third-person animations of this game because this animation exists. This doesn't exist with any other weapon. These just ballistic weapons have this. Don't know why, because they could definitely give that to these types of weapons, but eh. And now, this will be easier to point out in first person. The Mark Alpha has gotten a change, but the Mark 7 doesn't have that change, and that's just it removes the buttons from the sight. It makes it look a little bit more close to the actual optic on the gun. However, they should really just replace it with whatever they did for the Twin Mag, because the Twin Mag has the exact same optic, as you can see, albeit for some reason the model has a red dot, but when you actually zoom in, it's just a weird, like, little sight picture crosshair. Don't really like that, but they could just use this for the Mark 7, because, I mean, it is raised. The only difference is that it's missing that little adjustment, or, well, not adjustment, the connection point to the Picatinny rail. So they could just probably add that on, or just not even, because if it looks 90% accurate, then that's fine. It's just, that's a problem. And this is still broken. The first person animations for all the Chapter 5 weapons are still inherently busted and haven't been, you know, the ballistic ones, but backported, unfortunately, because they can do that. That is visible with the Veiled Precision SMG and all of its variants, of course, besides the ballistic variant. And the, what is it? The Hyper SMG has its animation still bugged out. So that's cool. So that's really it for this part of the video. Now we'll get on to the locker part of the video. So this is going to be me more restating things and some new information. Let's get with the new information first, and that's the fact that Grievous has Kicks compatibility again. Finally. Finally. Because if they're going to sell these overpriced cosmetics that at max can be $12, and I think there's one pair that's 15, I don't know. Either way, $12 cosmetics that don't work on one skin that could be your favorite. It's very whack to me. I mean, they already are a scam as is, given the fact that they've put minimal effort into making the compatibility for older skins actually look good. And still, some newer skins don't even look that good still with the compatibility. But at least Grievous does have kicks now. So you can make him wear Crocs, and it'll be really funny. And that's kind of the only really good thing about kicks, is that it's funny seeing actual characters without having to open up Blender or anything or draw wear kicks. And then the next thing is Ramus. Or Remus, however you want to pronounce it. I think it's Ramus, maybe? He doesn't have yellow eyes. I've settled with blue eyes because I did it for Bonesy as well. But if they do give him yellow eyes ever, sidekicks are still a scam. Like, they knew that if they added the icy blue and Bones, like, fur patterns, that people would be further complaining about sidekicks. And it was also probably too much effort for them. Because having, your dog be permanently a cool ice dog or a, painted skeleton dog would be so sick and radical. But with the fact that you have to purchase $12 again to make the same dog look the other cool way, yeah, people would be complaining. So, yeah, that's about it. There is a cool little emote that I does got, though. It's a very funny meme. I don't know who at Epic Games loves the shit out of wolves and who at Epic Games is a furry, but they are out there and we know you exist. So that's about it for new things. Now, actually, never mind. This is still a horrid design. Why am I allowed to use the right stick to switch to this. This is very whack. And also, they removed recent. Latest acquired doesn't work. It hasn't worked. It's never worked. It's sort of like a thing for recent, but I didn't get Fenix this season. I didn't get Rook this season. I didn't even get, like, well, actually, yeah, there's no other skins that would make sense here. But either way, this skin, this skin, this skin, all three, I didn't get this season. It's just very busted and whack because it's very mismatched. It's like, it makes sense after a while because, like, yeah, these are season two of that chapter. And then there's like chapter five, season four, three, two. Actually, where's three? There's three. So it makes sense the lower you get, but it also counts what skin you wore as latest acquired for some reason, and that's just kind of whack. They should maybe add a new tab for latest worn or most recently worn, but recents should still exist because I want to look at what I purchased and I want to look at what I've obtained because I don't always pay attention to what I've potentially earned, mostly just from crew. Because item shop stuff you buy, but it still gives you a new tab for some reason. And maybe it might have given you a bonus thing that you didn't look at in the shop, like it might have given you an emote or something. But yeah, either way, recents should be brought back. I don't know why it's latest acquired when latest acquired doesn't even work at all. So yeah, like I get it. People would like to look at what they've, recently acquired and how old they've acquired something. Like I didn't play during season one. This isn't my first skin. This is my first skin. I played during season four. So the fact that season five like is this like these skins are lower than season five when I got these during I got this during season eight and this during season seven, and this was actually during season four, I think, actually. Or I think it was the next year's July that I got it. No, I don't remember when I got this. I think this was during chapter two, actually, because I really wanted the blue bear because it's a bear and it's blue and it was funny and it's America. And I also really liked the fireworks backling, but I recently don't like that anymore because of course I don't. But like either way, that's enough rambling. Now, cars. The McLaren P1 is the most recent addition to Fortnite because they'd rather add new cars than port over old cars, but it seems like they're starting to do a healthy pattern of porting over a old car and adding a new car at the same time. So I'm very happy, but the front wheel is slightly bigger compared to the Rocket League version. I think the rear wheel is fine, but the front wheel looks slightly bigger, and of course it is. And it's funny because the old car that's been ported over, I think, has no issues, but the new car that's been fully modeled for both games has that issue. Tell me why it happens even for newer cars. Like, it makes sense that porting over an old car, it'd have that issue because, I mean, they seemingly do have that. But new car? Okay. And now, for other cars, the Nissan still doesn't have its wheel position corrected for those who care. BMW 1 Series has the said issue of big wheels compared to its Rocket League counterpart. The Ferrari 296 GTB still uses the weird great texture in the locker for some reason, rather than the correct proper texture for the, air intakes and grille, which probably is just called the grate because I think it might be a frunk car because it is a rear engine car. But either way, and even then, in the actual in-game version, the holes are smaller than the air intakes on the rear. So that's very interesting. The Chevy Corvette ZR1 still has the wheel position screwed as well. It's still faintly pointing outward when it should be. The top part, at least, should be flush with the fender. And I don't believe there's any other issue besides maybe the Batman wheel size. And yeah, that's kind of it. I think the 911 GT3 is perfectly fine. So yeah, there's that. But that's about it. They haven't really fixed any of the issues with the cars, of course. Because, I mean, yeah. And that's really about it for this video. Car issues, you know, Fenix, and shoes. So, yeah. However, if you've made it this far to the video, I would like to thank you, and I am sorry for rambling a lot, because again, my motivation for these videos have been hampered given the fact that my motivation to play this game has been hampered, and the fact that some issues still have been fixed given the port over from UE 3 to no UE 4 to UE 5. So yeah, it's just kind of whack. And that's really about it. So, thank you if you do care. And this is the end of the video.